And I just thought, oh, is this just going to be another situation where we get shafted?
Hey, it's Rob, and I'm not going to wait till the end of the video like a lot of people do to tell you what I'm, thinking here about Frankie Goes To Hollywood and their chances of ever reuniting for real and putting out new music and touring. And I've just got to say, I don't think it's going to happen. A lot of people, got really excited because they played at Eurovision this year, and I'm the only person on YouTube who has the rehearsal footage. And I'm just gonna, put it right out there. It's not my footage. I saw it on Facebook and I grabbed it and put it on YouTube, but I don't make any money from it. It's a copyrighted song. I'm just sharing it for the fans. So really, I'm just helping Frankie out, because if any money is generated, it goes to them. Now, it's my most popular video on my channel, approaching 75,000 views. I've been on YouTube like 15 years, and this is by far my most popular video. So why don't I think Frankie will ever get back together again? Well, I've got one big reason right here, and it is this. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. This album, even today, and we're talking 40 years later, it is just so damn impressive. There's just no way around what this thing is. It's, a juggernaut of sound, music, songwriting, the whole vibe of the band, even going, as far as the t-shirts and, the designs and the album art, you name it, everything. Just as a whole, there are very few records that have the impact that this does. I think about this record a lot still, 40 years later, and it's a crazy record because half of it, as you know, they're cover songs. Like, they're crazy, tossed off cover songs, except that even the cover songs are great. You kind of wonder, what if this was just a single album and didn't have Born to Run and, Do You Know the Way to San Jose? Would it have had the same impact? It would have been a great album and they would have gotten a lot of attention, but it wouldn't be over the top. And that's what this record is. It is just over the top. It is over the top in songwriting quality. It is over the top in musicianship, of course, mostly because it's studio musicians like Steve Howe from Yes and Trevor Horn playing on this, and the guys from the Art of Noise, and who knows, who actually played on this record. But, the musicianship is excellent. The sound, the sonic, landscape of this record is just unbeatable. It is just basically, set the standard for records in the 80s and beyond. So there's just no way around the fact that this thing is so good that it's just hard to live up to. That's the problem with Frankie, is that, they just know they can't top this. You look at Liverpool, the album that came out after it, and it's an okay album. It'd be a decent album by a new band or whatever, but it just can't compare to this at all. And I think that's the big problem with Frankie and why they'll probably never get back together again, because I know they tried 20 years ago. VH1 had that show, Bands Reunited. I've got a couple clips I'll throw in here, and they got all the guys in a room together, and they were willing to talk and to consider something. But, at the end of the day, they said, look, we're not going to, get together just because VH1 wants us to get together,
We have our reputation.
Sure.
And we didn't just want to get together in a room and perform like a scrappy band.
We're going to do it the way we want to do it, if we decide to actually do it someday. And that was 20 years ago, and the last we heard of them as a band, until this year, 2023, when they got up on stage and they did the title track, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, right here. The, first track on this record here. if you're not counting The World Is My Oyster and The Snatch of Fury. It was an unusual choice. It certainly got more airplay in England than it ever did here in the United States. Basically, nobody knows this song in the United States unless you really are into the band, and you would have thought this is maybe their last shot ever and they should just go up there and play Relax, but they didn't. They chose Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, a much shorter version. It's like 11 minutes or something on the record, but they got up there, and I pointed out in another video that although Holly's mic was live and Paul's mic was probably live, that was it. None of the instruments were live. None of the drums were live. They were just playing and miming to a track, and that's really what you could expect today. They're not a rehearsing band who are still actively touring and playing out or whatever. They maybe some of them haven't even picked up instruments in who knows how long. I know 20 years ago, Ped, the drummer, said, he hadn't played drums in years, and that was 20 years ago. So who knows, how current he is on his drumming skills or whatever today. But, and also you got to look at the fact that, they were not your normal band. They were not a band playing out in the clubs and, honing their skills like the Beatles and getting their, 10,000 hours of practice in or whatever. They were just a bunch of guys that were thrown together, and, they happened to just, find themselves in the orbit of Trevor Horn, who, of course, every record he made, he was like trying to prove a point, like this is going to be the greatest sounding thing you've ever heard. And, in the case of Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, of course it is. It's amazing, incredible. And, the guys may have played on it here or there or whatever, but basically it's the sound of studio musicians and a very talented producer putting together a record, that a band then went out and toured after. And I saw Frankie live. I saw them probably in 1985 or something. And, they can play their instruments, and they were able to recreate these songs, more or less. But they were just not your typical band who were a unit that had, gelled, and they had experiences together. I mean, they basically were just thrown together and then thrown out there on stage. They tried to make a go of it for a while. At the end, I know the bass player was trying to punch, Holly Johnson out at the last show at Wembley or whatever, and they went on and they played a great show, they said, but they just, at that point, they were going their separate ways, and that's kind of been the story with this band ever since. They've never really tried to get together and do anything musically.
We're not actually splitting up, we're just kind of getting away from each other, do you know what I mean? We've had enough for a while, I think. Well, some people think that, I think.
How long do you think your split will last?
A couple of decades. About 30 years.
It says here, a year.
A year. Or forever. Misprint. I don't know, it depends what we feel like, do you know what I mean?
And other than that, Bands Reunited episode where they got them in a room, and what we just saw, Eurovision 2023, that's really the only time all those guys have ever been in a room or on a stage together doing anything.
Because I doubt very much that we get this opportunity again, just to see each other as a whole, I may see all the other guys individually, but I really don't think I'll ever see Holly again, which is a real shame.
And I just think at the end of the day, we were lucky to even see them all together, healthy and happy, and watch them even miming one of their songs. Even a song that nobody in the United States here even knows at all, and probably could care less. But I was lucky enough just to see, like I said, somebody on Facebook had posted that rehearsal footage, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I better grab this, because who knows, when we'll ever see something like this again. And, my feeling is that we won't, unfortunately.
Do you think that you guys will get back together again one day? Do you think it could happen?
I always say never never
Sure.
again, but it's not on the cards at the moment.
But you never know.
You
just
never know.
And wouldn't that be
They always want to blame Holly and say he doesn't want to do it. That was what they said 20 years ago. This time they're saying, Ped, the drummer, he's not interested or whatever. So there's always pointing fingers and somebody who doesn't want to do it and somebody who does, and they go around and around. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're ever going to get together, and we should just be thankful for what we have in this life of ours, and what we have is this.